don't call me Jiggy when I'm home, they call me Snowman here. We ain't never home, but treat the city like the base, yeah. You know where to look if you're looking for the wave, yeah. Looking for the...
What it do? What's going down? What's happening? Welcome to another episode of the Eurosteppin podcast. Snowman, I gotta check in with you every time we on here. Tell me about that weather up there.
Oh, let me take a peek. It's raining.
Yeah, that's normal. It's a normal day in that PN dub, I see.
Right.
Well, Snow, we got I would say, young guest on the show today because he hasn't played a lot of years in Europe, but in his basketball career, he's done a lot of work. He is an all Champions League second team. He's an NCAA champion. He's a consensus second team All-American. He's an AP honorable mention All-American. Two-time first team All-WCC. WCC Newcomer of the Year and the SEC Sixth Man of the Year. And he was also a McDonald's All-American coming out of high school. Welcome to the show, Kyle Wiltjer. Kyle, what's up with you, man? How you doing?
Hey, man, I'm hanging in there. I think I'm going to hire you as my hype man. You're making me sound pretty good. You're making me sound good. So, no, I'm good. I'm just hanging out in the hotel. We got a game tomorrow, so I appreciate y'all having me on. And, yeah, I don't do these things too often, but I was checking out your guys' videos. I like your guys' vibe, so I appreciate y'all having me on.
We appreciate you giving us the time.
Absolutely. Kyle, Dave did a good job with the intro. That's fair enough. But we seen you.
Can I get an Alvin hype up? Like, do I just get a David hype up, or what's up? No,
Listen. I was actually gonna say we've seen you play, so it wasn't hype.
Okay.
Got a lot of games.
Yeah.
But you play for the Rockets. You know, that's where I'm from. So I know who going in and out of there.
Yeah, no, Houston's a vibe. No, I my rookie year, I was fortunate to make the Rockets, and I had some good vets around me who I was able to go to camp and actually, hustle my way on that roster. And that was one of the most fun years, even though I wasn't able to really play any kind of minutes. Just having that experience, being around those type guys, man, it's invaluable.
Right. Is there anything specific that, like a moment or something somebody told you or taught you, one thing that you would point to and say, you know what, this really stuck with me?
Man, one guy when I was in Houston was John Lucas was my guy when I was there. So he was just telling me, like, during, like, we were just had like a week of open runs, and obviously, like, what I do is I stretch the floor. And he just came up to me and, like, I was confident in myself, but he just came up to me and was like, yo, you're the best shooter. You should be the best shooter on this team, and you're going to make this team. And so when he told me that, and having a guy like him and all the stuff he's done in his career and now he's coaching, just hearing that, I was like, all right, I got this unlocked now. Because the one thing that team did was shoot the ball. So I found a nice little role, and I got on that roster.
Yeah, and you ain't stopped shooting since. No, man, you've been known to burn dudes all over the place, everywhere you've been. So coming off of developing that kind of confidence, can you talk a little bit about what happened in that situation, how you were able to navigate getting through there and now moving on to Europe? Can you talk about that whole time period and how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, that Rockets year, I kind of touched on it before, but just getting to see one of the best players in the world in James Harden. And, a huge reason I made that team was, because of that man. I got there as a rookie, and it was like I was kind of just like ready to hoop, but I didn't know how it was going to go. You never know how those vets going to treat you, you know what I mean? So when I got there and, like, the first pickup run, James was like, yo, he called me K Willie. That was my nickname. He's like, yo, I need K Willie on my team. And literally, if you're standing in the corner, he going to find you the rock. So it's not like he going to score. The one thing that's crazy about him is, like, he's putting up 30 points in games, but the one thing that dude, man, can do is pass. And he makes everyone around him better. So going into that year, like it was just awesome having a guy like of his stature kind of in my corner. So when it was time to make roster cuts, like people were already congratulating me on like the coaching staff, but until that final roster spot at 12 at midnight was set in stone, I couldn't believe it, because when you fighting for those last couple spots, like really anything can happen, and like you've seen like to the stars, like NBA is like a cutthroat game, like it's all business. So for me, like being a rookie, like I always knew Europe would be in my back pocket, but I wanted to try for the NBA first. And so that first year getting to play in the NBA, like it was just invaluable for me, not only being with the Rockets, but shit, like if I wasn't playing, I could be like, I actually learned from Montrez, and Montrez was like, yo, if you want to hoop, have them send you down to the G League. And there's a lot of players who don't want to go down there because, you know, there's some dogs in the G League on the low. So like when I sent myself down there, I went down there to get buckets and work on my game. And so for myself, like that's the one thing people don't realize. Like even though when I signed in Europe the second year, people were kind of like, oh, he hasn't really played as a professional yet. But if you look at my G League numbers, like I went down there trying to kill. And that was really a big part of my game, like developing, was the G League, if you use it correctly. Because, you know, some of these dudes, they just go down there and they think like they have an attitude because the NBA team sent them down or something like that. So for myself, like we went to the G League finals and that whole experience. And then, you know, we lost in the finals to the Raptors, Pascal Siakam, they had Fred VanVleet, all those guys. These guys are getting paid in the NBA now. So it's like, if I'm ever to get a shot again, like I have confidence I can even hoop in the league, just because these are guys that I've battled in the G League for years, you know? So, but yeah, then I got to go to Olympiacos, which is a storied program. And it's just like, from there, I've just been in Europe ever since. It feels like I've been over here 20 years, but I've only been here like 3 years.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Preparing, Dave and I had a brief conversation about you not having a ton of experience, but getting a job like Olympiacos as your first job.
Yeah, that's rare. Not rare. When me and Snow start coming in hooping,
right?
No one came straight over here and go straight to EuroLeague. No one.
Yeah.
Everyone always had to climb their way to the top. So, you know, maybe it's the old men in us. So we have the battle like, man, it must be easier now to come over here.
Yeah. Nah, that year was an up and down year for myself, because I was fortunate, you know, to come over when Prentice, who's a storied four-man in EuroLeague, he was injured. So I got to come over, and, you know, I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going overseas. Like I knew Olympiacos was a storied program because I was actually still with the Rockets, or no, I was in LA working out, and Patrick Beverly was with me, and he said, hey, Olympiacos is calling, you got to go. Like, go make your bag. Like that's one of the best clubs over there. Go hoop. Like just go do your thing, because he was actually with them back in the day. So when I went over there, I'm thinking like, oh man, I'm about to go kill. Like, but Europe isn't sweet either. Just like the G League, that shit's tough.
So,
and
wait,
I got
wait, Kyle. We're going to get into that, but I want to ask you this question before we get into this. When you figured out that you was coming to Europe the very first time, what was your thoughts? What were you thinking? Were you nervous? Were you scared? Were you like, how were you feeling?
I mean, I was excited. My mindset was like, I'm gonna go get buckets in Europe. Like that's literally my attitude going over here. And I touched down in Athens, and I'm, you know, they got all the crazy fans. They're taking pictures. I'm like, all right, I'm about to kill. I don't play the first 4 games. Like, so I'm like, what is going on? Like, y'all brought me over here. Like, you're paying me okay. I'm like, but I didn't play. So it's like, it was like one of those things where it was like eye-opening, because it's like, it humbles you quick, and it humbles a lot of people quick. Because you guys know you gotta fight over here. You gotta start from the bottom and you gotta go up. And a lot of players, you look and they're like, oh, why aren't they hooping? Like, because Europe, it's either Europe or the G League, and you know how the G League goes for the pay. So when I got to Olympiacos, it was great experience for me though, because then like 4th game, I go from not playing, and then I start against CSKA Moscow. And I'm like, how do I go from not playing to starting? But for myself, like that's the kind of like stuff that really helps you like confidence wise. And I started building my confidence with that team. And I had a great year for the minutes that I played, and then it was tough because Prentice's came back, and he's a fantastic player. But I got to learn a lot from him too. Like I've implemented some stuff in my game from him, and that kind of says a lot about Europe, because a lot of players, they just try to emulate the stars in the NBA. You know what I mean? Like, so for myself, like I love the way he played, and I got to battle against him, and he's tough. So like I got to kind of work with him all my I'd say that was my rookie year overseas. Right. And then it led to some good opportunities after that. But that year was fun. I can't. That was one of the best cities I've ever been in. My wife, we actually got married in Greece. So like Greece has a special place in my heart because it got my feet wet with European basketball, and then also it's an incredible city. The fans, man, those fans are ridiculous, unbelievable fans. So that year was dope.
Yeah, that's what we try to explain. Like the fan support in Europe is way different than it is in the States. Not the closest thing you could compare it to is maybe the college fans or university fans, but they'll get a little bit more rowdy over here because over here they'll throw lighters and coins at you.
Yeah, and they do the loud whistle. Yeah, like it's crazy. It's because the fans, they literally live and die their teams. Even if they don't know basketball, they live and die for their teams. And when I got to see Olympiacos, Panathinaikos, those rivalry games, we played them in the finals 5 games. And man, those fans were nuts. And that's what makes basketball fun, because you come overseas and you're like, damn, it means this much to them. Like this is. So it's really dope to see that.
So during that time with the Olympiacos, we've had a few guys who were probably in that game on the show or in that series, that final series that you're discussing. Can you tell us a little bit about some of your crazier moments during that time? Like, did you see fans throwing things? Did you have any of those kind of crazy experiences?
I mean, I got a bunch, but I got 2 that I always like tell people about. And one of them was our first like 6 games, there was no fans. And I'm thinking like, but it was only against Panathinaikos. And I'm like, what's the deal here? Like, where's our fans at? Like, what's up? And they're like, oh, last year in the finals, one of our fans stabbed a fan of Panathinaikos. And we're like, I'm like, hold on. Stab, like what? Like, I'm like, is this like, and he's like, and I'm like, how did they come to the realization that, oh, we killed one of their fans? Okay, 6 games. Like, why only 6? Like it's like crazy to me.
Right.
But and then the last one I got for you is game. It was like game. So your guy's last guest, Mike James, is from Portland, where I'm from too. So there was one time I seen him at a restaurant or something, and like someone took a picture of me with him, and I got in trouble because you're not supposed to hang with players of Panathinaikos. And then like, so game 4, it's like a crazy game. And then our fans, we were losing, so they throw the stink bombs on the court, or the things that sting your eyes. And so the next game, they put up the nets to protect us. And we look behind our bench, and there's a guy with a Freddy mask on, and he's got a pair of like gardening scissors, and he's cutting the net with the gardening scissors, and then just tossed like 5 players on the court. And I asked, like, why did they do that? And they said that some of the fans think that if they can delay the game or cancel the game, then we'll restart it. So we were losing by like 10. They thought like maybe we could restart it and replay it again. So it's different. It's a different atmosphere, but that's what makes those games so. I mean, I'm gonna remember that for the rest of my life. At the end of the day, those rivalry games, and Mike can tell you about those too. He probably talked about it. I didn't listen to your whole show, but man, it's crazy.
Man, you ain't have that you ain't listened to our whole show though.
Nah. No, I had a busy day the other day, so.
Messing with you.
So look, so you finished that season up there. You guys go to the finals. You end up taking the L, but you did make it to the finals. And then you move on to you go to Spain. You leave Greece and go to Spain to Malaga, an incredible place. Can you talk a little bit about that situation?
Another really good situation, for myself, because in the heat of the moment, like when you're playing in a season, you kind of just you can get frustrated with certain things. You can be up and down, but looking back on it, like I went from Olympiacos where I would probably play 10, 15 minutes a game, and then I went to Malaga, where I'm like ready to just be unleashed. Like I want to like just go do my thing. I feel like I could do more. And I had a great year as well, but like still in the heat of the moment, you're like, in Spain, everything is very team oriented, 25 minutes a game. But that city was just unbelievable. You're living right there on the water. Great coach. I had another great coach. So Olympiacos had a good coach, and then Malaga had another good coach. So I was just kind of building blocks and getting my feet wet in Europe, and I was getting more and more comfortable with my game over here. Especially being like a guy who stretches the floor. Like I think the thing in Europe I've learned a lot is like I've had to really evolve playing in the post as well. Because if they switch my screens, I gotta bully them down low. So in Malaga, I was able to kind of work with a couple good coaches there, and it was a fun year. Came up short in the ACB playoffs again, but it was a great year.
In your time, before we get to where you are now, can you talk us a little bit about some of the better players you played with in those places, so we can kind of help some of these guys paint the picture for the level, right, that you were at?
For sure. Actually my first 2 years I played with Brian Roberts, who actually had some great years in the NBA. And he was kind of like, playing with a guy 2 years in a row. He was really familiar with my game. I was really familiar with his. So it was fun getting to play with a guy like him. That's the thing about Europe is like everywhere I've gone, like I'm playing with players who dominated college, like, or gone to work, So Olympiacos, we had Hollis Thompson, who's with the Sixers, Jamel McLean, who was a beast that year. And then the big man on our team who was still kind of young was Milutinov, who's now playing with Cheska. And you could see like he's like a good 7-1, and we could see like, hey, this guy's going to get paid in Europe, but he wasn't quite there yet. But now he's playing with Moscow, making who knows what. There's money to be had over here, that's for sure. But yeah, every team I've been on, like I've had some really talented guys.
I mean, you were talking about you played with guys that killed in college. You were one of those guys.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
I know I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, but I do kind of want to ask you this question. It don't have nothing to do with Europe, which is kind of off the rails for us. I know you signed to Kentucky out of high school, played there for 2, then transferred to Gonzaga. Why the transfer? This is my question.
Yeah, no, I was in a good spot after my sophomore year. I'd gotten like the 6th man of the year in the SEC. And, I was probably going to have a similar role my junior year. I was kind of that guy who comes off the bench, stretches the floor, knocks down some threes. The reason I decided to transfer, I was actually, when I was in high school, my top 2 schools were Kentucky and Gonzaga. And a lot of people thought like, I was a Northwest kid, I was going to go to Gonzaga. And, I like to do things differently. I was like, I got an offer from Kentucky. I got all these tough players going there. Like I took it as a challenge. So I went there, trying to prove people wrong. And I had a good couple years, but my thing was if I played bad at Kentucky that my sophomore year, it's just next guy up. And I wanted to go somewhere where if I'm playing bad, we're going to lose. Like I needed that. I thought in my mind, like I needed that challenge to kind of make my game more ready for like a professional level. So like when I went to Gonzaga, not only I wanted that pressure, but it was like the system was more suitable for stretch 4-man who's gonna run the offense at the high post, like swing it, post up kind of deal, as opposed to like a dribble drive. So for myself, like I just thought it was a no-brainer. It was a tough decision because, man, Kentucky basketball was one of the most fun years of my life. But yeah, at Gonzaga, I just wanted that responsibility, and I wanted to play. At the end of the day, I wanted to play 35 minutes. Like that was my reasoning.
Well, it worked out for you. You guys went to the Elite Eight. You did pretty well.
Yeah, I'm still salty about those losses. That's the thing about college basketball, man. I'll always be salty about that loss.
Talk about it. Like, what was so bad about that particular loss?
Well, for us, like we played, like the game was 40 minutes. We played like 35 good minutes, and then we played Duke, who ended up going to win it. So as much as like some would be like, hey, at least y'all lost to Duke, like, nah, the way I look at it is like we could have been Duke. You know, yeah. That was the year, my junior year, we had a squad, like we just played the right way. We had big guys, we had Pangos, point guard, like then my senior year, like we lost another heartbreaker, like we didn't get stopped, like we lost at like maybe 1 or 2 points, but it was like we should have won, like literally played good the whole game, and then they pressed us at the end and lost. So it's just one of those things where it's like you just look back on, because winning it my freshman year, you know, like how like it seems like this impossible task when you start the tournament, but if you have a nice team, like if you really just do one game at a time, like you really can win it. So like I really thought that my junior year squad like could have competed for a national championship. So losing that was tough, but you know, just every year life goes on. Ball keeps bouncing most of the time. So ball's still bouncing for you guys. You guys are talking hoops, you know?
Right. True story.
Yeah.
So after Malaga, you're in the spot where you are now, which is Turkey, at Türk Telekom. You guys are playing really well now. You guys played well last year, considered one of the favorites to win Champions League last year. Came up short. Well, actually, I don't even want to say you came up short, to be honest. COVID hit. Yeah. So, you know,
yeah.
After COVID, I mean, everything was, you know, all messed up. Tell us about Turkey, your Turkish experience, because I know it's kind of similar as Greece, but way different than Spain.
For sure. No, it's a good way to put it. So when they were actually trying to get me when I went to Malaga the first time. So I was already familiar with this club. But, you know, Malaga, the weather, and it was a no-brainer. I was like, I'm going to the beach. I'm taking the beach, you know, like whatever. The next year, so Türk Telekom, they, you know, they're backed by a cell phone sponsor. So the year coming off Malaga, they threw me an offer I basically couldn't resist. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to listen to this offer. And at first, you know, I was like, I didn't know anything about Turkey. So there was nothing like, it wasn't like I was just more so like uneducated. So I was almost like kind of fearful to go to Turkey. But as I did my research and I looked at, you know, the club has been doing great the last couple of years. They've had a good budget and they're kind of on the rise. But also what really sold me was my head coach's belief in me. Like it was the first coach that was like, yo, like, I want to run things through you. I want you to like be you. Like I've seen what you can do. And so like for me, I was like, that was kind of like a Gonzaga situation again. Like I could go back. I had some real good offers coming off Malaga, you know, to try to make a pushback for EuroLeague and stuff like that. But the difference was like, I'm still a young European player. So I was like, I feel like if the money's right, like I can go to Turkey and like kind of prove myself again. That was kind of my mindset. So I went kind of a different route, which a lot of guys probably would have taken like a EuroLeague offer and just tried to go EuroLeague. But for me, like I was like, Champions League also is kind of on the rise. Like if you look at all the teams, like there's real good teams this year. So for myself, like I went to Turkey just kind of like with that mindset, like I want to like get back to my Gonzaga Bulldogs buckets days, you know? So like that was my kind of mindset. And, you know, it's been a great situation so far. My coach, you know, Dave, you probably know him. So you played for him back in the day, or did you play for assistant coach?
No, he was an assistant coach on the team I was.
Okay.
When I played,
Yeah, no, so
I played in Ankara also for Ted College, who was the Euro Cup team. And he was the assistant, and John Dose, he was also assistant on that team. So I know
it's a small world.
Yeah.
Now they're really good people. That's the thing about them is like they're kind of on the rise. I feel like as coaches too. They literally eat, sleep, and breathe basketball. And so like when me and Dave, before this podcast started, we were kind of joking like, is Coach stressing right now? Like he stresses because he really cares about this club. Like he wants us to do well. And like that really just tells a lot about basketball over here. Like it really is everything to them. So like for me, like every game, I obviously want to be good for myself, but like I see how much it means to them. So it kind of like, motivates you.
Hey, you just said something that kind of hit me, and I'm like, it's a question we've asked many guys on the pod, but specifically guys who've played in both places, be it the NBA and overseas. Can you talk a little bit about some of the differences between the two games?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I would say the biggest difference is just space. Like when you're in the NBA, and I mean, I played in the G League mostly that year, but even in the NBA, like preseason stuff like that, you just get if you're a shooter, like you get wide open shots. I think that's the thing I've learned about in Europe. It just seems, I don't know what it is about. There's just not as much space. So everything's a little more difficult. Yeah. And you really have to know the rules over here because it's more physical, but it's not. Like it's like you touch the wrong way and that's a foul, and like you look at the ref and he's gonna be mad at you, like for no reason. So you have to be very careful with the like nuances of the game. So I think the biggest difference is just like physicality is different than the league because it's allowed sometimes, but it's not allowed sometimes. I don't know if that you guys probably know what I mean by that.
You gotta know where it's allowed and how.
Yeah. And a lot more post-ups. That's a huge thing because the game in NBA has kind of gone away from that. It's all pick and roll. Here, there's still a lot of like, where's the mismatch? Go post up and like bully ball. At least that's how we've been playing because we got a bigger team. So, but yeah, it's definitely a different flow. That's for sure.
I can, whenever we, able to talk off camera, whenever I come to a game, I can tell you those stuff that you can do that you can get away with. Don't worry.
I mean, you did say it was. You said this was an uncensored podcast. So, no,
I don't want to give up all my tools that I used to use. Respect.
Yeah, you could. We'll talk after this. You could hook me up with some of those tools.
So we all know that Europe is a different place. Talking about outside of basketball now, right? So no matter where you was at, Greece, Spain, Turkey, what was the most mind-blowing or I would say culture shock that you experienced being in either one of them countries? I know, for example, for me, the first time I seen that hole in the ground, that was supposed to be a toilet, it messed me.
That's top one for me easily by far. And I think when we were at like a bus stop and I won't name any names, someone had to go to the bathroom and their only option was the hole in the ground. So it's just a different vibe. But I think the biggest culture shock is just when you come over, like, you're expecting it to be easy, not expecting it to be easy, but it's definitely a lot harder being, American, and like, you got to really fight your way to be respected in European basketball. So off the court, like I didn't really, because I've been in some big cities, I haven't really faced like a huge culture shock moment, like language, like most of the time, like in Athens, people were speaking English, Malaga, same way. And then even Ankara, we're in that little bubble where we live. We call it a bubble, and everything in that area is good restaurants, good food. So I've been very fortunate to be playing on a level that it's like I haven't really felt that, shocked, really, to be honest.
Right. Okay.
Kyle, so one of the questions we like to ask every guest on the pod is, Before we get into this, man, I gotta say, some dudes come on here and don't keep it real, man. Don't be one of those dudes, man. All right. so listen. You done played in all high level situations. Everywhere you've been high level. So somebody cooked you. Who was who was that guy?
I was trying to think like, where are you going with this question? I'm trying to think. Okay, so let me think. Some Olympiacos. Not really. I would say the dude that I was like, okay, you'll send a double team was in those G League playoffs. I was guarding Siakam, and he's not necessarily like the strongest dude. Like I could do some things on him, but I think the thing that he does really well is he's like slippery in the post. Yeah, like he's spinning nonstop, like super active. So I definitely had some problems in that. I definitely had to be like, hey, y'all send double team. But it did make me feel better when he got his payday, because I was like, at least I got cooked by someone who's getting paid. So
that's a good one. That's a good story. Who's somebody who is somebody who may have got under your skin or something, just running their mouth or whatever the case, and you said, and it made you just push that button and turn it up on them? Who's that guy?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think. I would say, one guy that I would be real competitive with is actually a guy from Portland. When we were in Kentucky practices, me and Terrence Jones, we would, but it was all like in good competition. Like there was nothing, because that's my boy, so it's like, but I remember those Kentucky days made me a better player and a tougher player, because that's what Coach Cal does, is he rolls the balls out and lets the players compete. So like those years for me, like me and T Jones would battle a lot, and he was a beast that year.
That's dope.
So since this is your 4th year in Europe, usually we ask guys to give us their starting 5, right? But I don't want to ask you that question because you haven't. Normally the guys, they've been in Europe for 10 plus years, so they've seen everybody play, right?
Mm-hmm.
But since you've been over here, who are the players that you've seen playing and you were like, man, this guy is unbelievable. This guy is nice. Is there is there 2 or 3 guys that you thought that about?
Yeah, I think one of the obvious answers is my boy Mike. I've already been familiar with his game because he's from the Portland area, but like seeing it on the European level, because my first year I didn't really realize the significance of like EuroLeague, stuff like that. So what he's been able to do at the EuroLeague level is one of the highest ever. So he's the obvious answer there. I'm trying to think of some other guards. I could go the guard play in Europe is really high right now.
It is. Yeah.
Because like even guys like in the Champions League, like Langford, he's been around the block, been on a bunch of teams. He's tough.
He's been around for
vet. He's been a vet. And then if I was doing a starting 5, you got to put a guy like Kyle Hines in there. Because this guy he's been in every team. He's won on every team. Yep. That's the thing that I value if I was listing players, is winning, and he's a winner. And then like the guy like I play with Spanoulis, Greek legend. I before going, I knew who he was and like what he did, but like getting to like look up his highlights and see what he's been able to do at European level, like he was a killer. So getting to play like a guy like that was tough.
Mm-hmm. That's the lineup you named are all respected guys for real.
Yeah.
We've interviewed Keith too. You should check that one out.
I'll check him out. I'll watch the whole episode.
That's what I was going to ask. You gonna the whole thing or what, man?
Yeah, my bad. No, I got the. I'm like the classic. I'll be starting something as soon as someone calls me, and I'll just my brain will just start talking about something else.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So,
hey man, go ahead, Dave.
no, you got it.
So I wanted to I can sense that you're a guy who kind of, like you said, things can take your attention. What are some of the other things that you find yourself getting yourself into outside of basketball?
Yeah, me and the one thing, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Zillow. I got a lot of searches on the Zillow real estate app. So I actually, basically last summer, I finally got it legalized. I started my own real estate company. So what I've been trying to do is kind of get rental properties all across the world. And I'm not going to tell you exactly my strategy, but basically I'm trying to, if I'm playing in a dope city, instead of renting out for 10 months, I want to buy a spot, and then I want to make it right for Americans and then let them rent it out. So like my first trial was in Malaga. I actually bought a house there in Malaga. So currently I got a player who's living in it. And what's cool is like, so basically what I'm saying is if you're watching this podcast and you're going to Malaga, you're going to expect a message from Kyle Wiltjer, because I'm trying to rent it out for you. Because not only am I trying to get my spot rented out, like I really believe that it's the best spot that any American's going to find in Malaga. I got a washer and dryer in there. I got a flat screen TV, like the little things you don't think of, but I've thought of, and so that's my kind of idea. And I got a spot in Portland I started, but I don't really know if Ankara is the right spot for a rental. But if I'm in a beach town next year, I'm going to definitely keep this business model going. And I hope at the end of my career, I can look back and I got, say, 5-7 spots that are rented out to basketball players. And essentially these clubs, because they pay for the players' rent, they're essentially paying for my mortgages. So in a sense, like that's my thing. So
time out. This is our thing on the pod. Whenever there's like a moment, we call timeout and we got to dive a little deeper. This is borderline. No, this is actually like full-fledged genius, dude. This is elite. I don't know how you came up with this. I don't know who you sat down with. I don't know. Can you talk about? I need more. How did you come up with this idea?
Well, I mean, I kind of thought about it. Oh, me and Brian Roberts were on a bus. And I asked, you know how hoopers do. There's always like, you would be like, hey man, like you think of all these hypothetical questions, and they like, sometimes they're way over the top. Like sometimes they're like real questions. So I was like, hey, what would you rather have? Play for 10 years and make 100,000 each year? Or would you rather play for 10 years and each club buys you $100,000 apartment? And I was like, and so everyone was like, I'll take the mill, like whatever, I'll take the cash. Like, I don't want like a bunch of places. And I explained to him like why I thought if you had places all across the world, like whatever. And then the biggest thing is like, if you leverage incorrectly and say, I can't get a spot rented out, say it's in a terrible location, like you're on the hook for the mortgage and you might, not be able to cover those mortgages someday. But where I think my idea works is you kind of get an agreement with the team also, is like, so when I reached out, I got a player in Malaga right now, Tim Abramitis, and I reached out as soon as I follow Malaga and I got alerts on. As soon as I saw Tim Abramitis, I never talked to the guy in my life. Hey Tim, it's Kyle. Like, was wondering, like if you need a spot, like I got this spot that, to be honest, is gonna be the nicest place you could find for what because I know what Malaga gives to the players to rent out. It's like, this is the best spot you can find. If you're interested, let me know. And he's like, yeah, send me some pictures. So I sent him some pictures. He's like, oh, the team actually already showed me this. He's like, this is the one that's my favorite. So it was like perfect. So it was already rented out before he even got to Malaga. And for myself, like obviously, like I'm in it for the long-term play. Like if I rented it out to an average Joe, I could probably get some more cash every month. But my philosophy is like, as long as my mortgage is covered, in 10 years, 20 years, after I'm done playing, if I got 10 spots, I'm like, first of all, if I retire, I might just travel each 10 spots and just chill for a while, like selfishly. But yeah, so I did that, and then this year I didn't buy one in Anchor. I actually got another spot in Portland. So I just trying to, obviously you got to find the money for the down payment, but the way I look at it is like, hey, save up some money each salary and then go buy a spot, and then, so.
What if I can tell you I can help you with Istanbul spots?
Istanbul, I looked into Istanbul, actually earlier this year, because I wanted to see if I could. This is another pause moment. If you invest a certain amount of money into different countries, they offer golden visas. So my philosophy was, if Kyle Wiltjer could get a passport, then it's like my doors open up. I don't count as American at this for hoop wise. So I think the amount is 250,000 if you invest in Turkey. So we started looking at properties early in the year, but it's kind of a weird loophole because then the Turkish Federation gets involved as well. So you have to get approved by them too. So, but yeah, I definitely looked into Istanbul because Istanbul is a great city, as you can talk about that.
I know people. We'll talk.
All right, that sounds good. Hey, I'll get how about this? I'll get a spot and you can rent it out.
Hey,
that's cool. That's cool.
Hey, what Dave's not telling you is, if you want to make your spot nicer than it already is when you buy it, he can help you with that too. He has a company that can help you with that too.
All right, I think this call's been a success then. I got my connects up.
Anything else out there that you got going on, man, that people would just be interested in, or that, just because you seem like an interesting guy who's kind of has his hands in a number of things. Is there anything else out that you got going on outside of hoops?
I mean, not really, besides, I got a little girl on the way. So
yeah, congratulations.
So
Congrats.
So yeah, so I mean, I'm super, super excited about that. It's honestly like, it's one of those things, you see people around you, having kids, stuff like that, but until it happens to you, like literally the first thing I wake up in the morning is think about baby girl, and she's not even here yet.
Right.
So it's one of those things that it's a mind-blowing experience. I can't imagine. So my wife's just started her 3rd trimester, and she's been a warrior, because it's obviously being overseas as a wife is not easy as it is. And now that there's COVID virus around, and she's basically had to be in the apartment extra safe, so I just thank her. Hopefully she watches the podcast, watches the whole thing too. So no, I'm very, very thankful for her, putting up with me, and then also, Karen, the young one that's about to come in April.
Congratulations, man.
So
girls
appreciate it.
They show a lot of
girls are up.
They show a lot of love, but they're gonna make you work.
Yeah, girl dad gang,
Yeah. Snow, anything else you got for our man Kyle?
I think I'm good. Kyle killed it today, man. I appreciate you for coming on, man. You did a hell of a job.
I appreciate it, guys. Now,
do you have anything to tell like young guys who don't know anything about Europe, who thinking about coming to Europe, that any game that you want to give them?
Man, I would just say the 2 things I would say were, no matter what club you go to, like, just do what you do. Like, I think some guys come over here, they try to do too much. Like, if you're a Mike James scorer, like, score like Mike James. Like, I'm a stretch 4. Like, I'm not going to dribble up and just play ISO 1s all game, like, I'm going to move the rock, be unselfish. Like, I'd say just, if you're a young guy coming to Europe, you got to come hungry, but like, you got to come humble too. Like, just because, whatever you did in the States, it's wiped away when you get to Europe. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing I've learned, is like, a lot of dudes' careers just kind of fizzle down because Europe, what G League is. And then when you get to Europe, it's like, it's a humbling experience. So there's levels to it over here. And, I would just say, just be confident in yourself. And, every situation is not going to be sweet either. You might get a bad situation one year, so you just got to bounce back the next, Yeah. So I think that's what I would say.
Kyle, you're one of the lucky ones. Let's just put it like that.
But I like to think
let's just keep that rolling, man. Hey, I like to think so too, but let's just hopefully that just keeps going because I need a good spot next year, even if it's back with this club or Istanbul, whatever. I need a good spot.
We gotta get a crib. Yeah, I say that we gotta get a crib.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Kyle, again, man, thank you for coming on to the show. We really appreciate the time that you gave us. You gave a lot of game and gems, and what you're doing outside of basketball is the first time we've heard someone doing it like that. We haven't even heard it from the vets that we've interviewed, man. So congratulations on the success you're having. Good luck on the rest of the season. Congratulations on the baby. Man, you're killing it in life right now.
Right, he's a winner.
No, I appreciate y'all because I've done a lot of interviews and I mean it, like just the unscripted vibes that you guys got going on. You got a dope little thing going on. So I appreciate y'all having me on, but also respect to you guys because it's a dope little podcast you got.
I appreciate that, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you for another episode
Yes, sir.
of Eurosteppin Podcast. Catch us on Next One's YouTube page or also on nextones.com. You can also listen to us on audio, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. That's Eurosteppin Podcast, no G.
We got all the game.
Thought it was a joke, what they still playing games for? Holes in my denim, never holes in my game, no. You won't be just like me, they don't love you the same, no. The series 3-0, and I'm back home for game 4.